Route 616, your home for all things Marvel main continuity. Hello, everybody. This is RJ, otherwise known as RJ Epic One here, and I'm here yet again with with Bill and
That's a sigh.
and Man United continues to beat his team. It's Dan.
Oh, shut up. Hi.
I was going to be nice since Dan's in hell this week.
No, you were not going to be nice.
No, I was going to wait till you were the most vulnerable, but I could try to claim it.
But nobody's going to believe you.
The sad part is I think I had a different one for you earlier today, and I forgot it, so I just had to make something up on the spot.
Oh, dear.
I'm all right with you putting me over.
Well, I feel like I gotta humble Dan at the beginning of these sometimes before we get going. So.
Oh, Dan's getting plenty humbled this week.
I've already had my humble pie for the month. Thank you very fucking much. Losing to fucking Man United.
Dan has had a bad month.
Fuck.
Anyways, we're this isn't a football podcast, believe it or not. We talk about it enough sometimes, but we're here to talk about some comics today. And today's episode is quite the lineup. We have all of Dan's favorite comics are in this episode today, as it is essentially just the Spider-Man and Fantastic Four episode. So this is lovely.
Yay.
All the stories are Fantastic Four stories, except for Strange Tales, which is a Spider-Man story.
So we're gonna open up. We're gonna open up with Amazing Spider-Man number 5, guest starring Doctor Doom. First time Doctor Doom and Spider-Man face off and meet each other and everything. So it's
I think
cool
this
issue.
is the first time someone borrows someone else's villain too,
That actually I think is the case as well.
because they done crossovers with Ant-Man and Hulk, but this is the first time a villain's crossed over.
What
Yeah,
about
it
Namor?
is. It's the start of a trend.
Did Namor not cry? Oh, no, he was just always Fantastic Four. Never mind.
Yeah, he was always Fantastic Four.
I
and
thought he
turned
dealt
up
with
in
Hulk
Strange...
at one point.
He turned up in Strange Tales, which might be what you're thinking of, and then
Okay.
he will be crossing over very soon more with other people.
Yeah, he'll turn up in pretty much everyone's book eventually, but I don't think he has yet, unless I'm forgetting something.
The first case I can think of will be Avengers, probably.
Yeah, I think so.
This is an absolutely horrifying cover.
So yeah, we go.
Yeah, it's a bad cover.
Amazing
Wow.
Spider-Man number 5 we'll start off with. Then we have Strange Tales number 112. And then we have the Strange Tales annual number 2, which is the first Johnny Storm-led annual for the title, which includes guest star Spider-Man. Hell yeah. And then we have both stories of the Fantastic Four annual. And yes, that's only 5 entries for this week, but that is because the Fantastic Four annual is 37 fucking pages. So it's like 2 stories in one, so
Spoiler,
possibly
it did
more
not
than that.
need to be 37 pages. Even with the padding they put in, it did not need 37 pages. They basically had a whole second plot thrown in for the last 10 or so pages because the main plot ended.
Yeah, so that's our lineup for today, and that's why today that's why one of us today was only getting the one entry to cover.
Yay.
So spoiler alert, that's gonna be Bill. Bill's gonna
Oh.
Bill's
What
gonna
the
challenge
fuck?
the big
Do
boy
you guys
later.
really hate me that much?
Yeah, well, I mean,
Did you want to cover the 37-page Fantastic Four annual?
Oh, God, no. No.
yeah.
No.
So
There you
exactly.
go.
Anyways, let us get into the Amazing Spider-Man, issue number 5, story titled Marked for Destruction by Doctor Doom. We have Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, of course, and Sam Rosen is the letterer, is the only real other one to point out there, because every other fucking credit is Stan Lee and Steve Ditko, almost said Jack Kirby. This is a July 1963 release, a 21-page story, and off we go to the races. I guess looking at my notes here, this is the first Amazing Spider-Man issue. A pretty important note. This is the first Amazing Spider-Man issue with no new appearances. Pretty wild.
Who cares?
So we open up on a page.
But what about the appearance of the other Spider-Man that they thought was exciting enough to plug a magazine on?
Oh, is that on the cover too?
No, it's on the splash page.
Oh, it's on the splash page. Oh, well. Yeah, I mean, we'll get to that. We have the splash page opens up. We have Spider-Man and Fantastic Four. Read Fantastic Four on the page. We have Spider-Man and Doom face to face, and it has a lineup of different characters that the story is featuring. And yes, it teases that there's another Spider-Man. So wild. What were you gonna say, Bill?
No, that was it. I was just making fun of them plugging the other Spider-Man because I've read the story.
Okay. Yeah.
It could be a guy that looks like a spider, and they could call him Man Spider.
We'll get to that in a few
Don't
seconds.
you like Batman, the comic that actually did that?
Yeah, I love it.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Oh shit. Okay. So we open up and we have a newscast where we see J. Jonah Jameson talking shit about Spider-Man once again. And by talking
Finally,
shit,
our
he's
hero shows up.
the real hero of this
The
comic,
real
J.
hero
Jonah
of these stories, J. Jonah.
I do love me some Jonah.
Yep.
Jonah is the man.
Parker!
Nobody will ever be able to play J. Jonah Jameson after J.K. Simmons. We have students gathered around TV and they're talking, and Flash Thompson and some others kind of they bully Peter Parker again, and Peter decides, because he doesn't want to give up his identity, obviously that means that he should just talk shit about Spider-Man as well, because that will really protect his identity, because you know.
No one else was talking shit about Spider-Man. Everyone else is like, Spider-Man's pretty cool, and he's like, I hate him.
Yeah,
asshole.
they make fun of Peter Parker, but everybody actually loves Spider-Man in terms of the student base. But Peter Parker's like, well, I don't want people to get any idea that I'm Spider-Man, so I'm just going to talk shit about Spider-Man.
I hate
He's
that
an
trope in
idiot.
comics. They do it with a lot of heroes. That, I want to distract attention from myself, so they start talking shit about their alter ego, despite the fact that literally everyone they're talking to loves them, so it would be not at all suspicious if they also love them.
I literally have a
Well-
note about it in here. Like, nobody suspected you anyways, buddy, so why would you...
I have to say, this is one of the few times I agree with Peter.
Not that it's good writing or so, just you also hate Spider-Man.
Yeah, I agree with Peter. He's right. Which is this is a new world for me. You know, Peter's spot on.
Anyways, we go over to Doctor Doom, who gives us a recap on how the fuck he survived his last appearance. If you would remember, he jumped out of a blimp without us seeing him activate a parachute or anything, and he just fastly disappeared out of sight. And
Without
he
a limp
explains
from the blimp. What a gimp.
We waited till you got home from work. Why?
I have no idea.
he
Did you miss me?
We learned that he survived from a jet-powered flying belt that he wore to glide to safety. So that's some comics bullshit right there, which is lovely.
Yeah, they could have just said jetpack like literally anyone else.
Doom,
He wears a cape. You wouldn't have seen the jetpack.
Like
this is
Rocket
great.
Robin Hood.
So, Dr. Doom is like, oh, I'm gonna contact Spider-Man using a special frequencies that only somebody with...
That trope is getting tedious quick.
I'll be glad that it doesn't last. I'm glad it doesn't last much longer.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
God,
haven't
that's
been
irritating.
docking it because Golden Age or like early Silver Age bullshit is something I expect early in the Silver Age. But yeah, it's not something I enjoy.
Yeah, he fully gets the Ant-Man. He gets the Ant-Man gimmick here. So Doom uses a special spider frequency to reach out to Spider-Man because he has spider DNA in him. Do you get
So
it?
lame.
So Spider-Man reacts to the message and he comes to meet him up where the message said to meet up.
Really?
And-
He goes to where he was asked to go.
Yeah,
Yes.
he does.
Wow.
Quite simply. He
Clever.
quite simply goes.
Doom will
and he
never
meets
see
up
that
with
coming.
Dr. Doom.
I mean, Doom wanted him to come.
Yeah. So Doom Doom gives Spidey the proposition to team up with him and take over the world. Spidey webs up what turns out to be a Doombot. Who would have seen that coming? And Doom tries to... He activates a trap.
In their defense, probably no one, because I think this is either the first or second appearance of Doombots.
Yeah, I think it's only the second, so... I said that phrase with the common knowledge, common present knowledge, but yes, you are correct in that. Nobody would actually see that coming at this point. Doom activates a trapdoor in the floor, but Spidey, because of his spider sense, dodges it, which actually makes sense. So they are fighting. Doom shoots a laser out of his finger or something, and Spidey's kind of forced to jump out, kind of forced to fall / jump from the window and goes into the water. Doom talks about how he's left him helpless and how he's going to use Spider-Man to bait his deadly trap for the Fantastic Four. So Spidey gets out of the water, he leaves, and he's like, I'm trying to figure out what he's actually saying here.
Doom blew up the building to cover his tracks.
Yeah, so then he's like, well, enough of him for... he's like, I'll have time for him for later, and he's like, I'm gonna go snap a few pics for Jonah. And then we go over to all the students we know and love, and we see that Flash Thompson is dressed up as Spider-Man.
Yes, that is the other Spider-Man. It's fucking Flash, who's also plugged on the splash page in a Spider-Man costume.
Yes.
I'm not even going to try. Just please do this quickly. Make it end.
So, Flash Thompson is walking the streets in the Spider-Man costume. He puts the Spider-Man mask on, and we see that Doom is watching who he believes to be Spider-Man on a monitor.
His plan was to basically menace Peter as Spider-Man to make Peter afraid because he thinks Peter hates Spider-Man.
Yes, Flash was gonna prank old puny Parker. So Dr. Doom comes and grabs who he believes is Spider-Man, but is actually Flash Thompson, because Doom's plan is to trap Spider-Man in a cylinder containment unit he's built, and lure the Fantastic Four to save him, which we see this plan go into effect on page 10 here. Only page 10 of 21, Dan.
Yeah, I've got to say, I do like how they handled Doom's accidentally grabbing Flash, because they actually made it make sense, because he had a device to track Spider-Man, and right when he finds Spider-Man, who's Peter, is when Flash was about to jump out and startle him, pretending to be Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So, you're getting emanations from Spider-Man, and you see a guy that looks like Spider-Man, of course you're going to grab him. So...
Well, yeah, because Doom's invention actually worked, because it was tracking his DNA. But Spider-Man...
For once in, early Silver Age, Golden Age stuff, they actually bothered to explain something instead of just, he grabbed Flash by mistake, despite the fact that he's established as a genius. He completely fucked this up. They actually gave him a reason to realistically believe Flash to be Spider-Man.
Yeah. It's pretty good. So we see Doom has taken over the television. He's on the television. He's taken over all the airing rights, and he is given his message. He has trapped Spider-Man, and he will kill Spider-Man within an hour or two, whatever he says here. Unless the Fantastic Four come to save him, he will die.
Which makes no sense. Why would he fucking care? Just kill Spider-Man, then go kill them. Get it done, please.
At this point, Peter's like, I gotta get out of this house, but Aunt May's not gonna let me leave, so he fucking messes around with the breaker and he pulls one out, and then he makes the power go out for an excuse to leave. We see Spidey going around. He keeps thinking who this other Spider-Man could be. He learns at some point that it's Flash because Betty calls him. Liz. Liz
calls him because Flash is missing after he dressed up as Spider-Man.
Yeah, so that's when Peter puts it together. But Peter
I don't know why she would call Parker to help with that. Given that they all hate him.
Yeah, that's a bit of plot convenience, but Spider-Man, as Spider-Man, he ends up finding Doom eventually. He's going around. He's using his spider sense to locate Doom, which is... they play around for a long time with how Spider-Man, how his spider sense actually works, but he finds Doom in an abandoned factory, and he goes in, breaks in, and he catches Doom off guard, because, I mean, he's captured Spider-Man. Why? Who is this? So... they have a battle. Doom starts unleashing some traps, but it doesn't really go well for him. Spider-Man ends up getting the trap that does work for a little bit is that Spider-Man lands on a platform where Doom electrifies the shit out of him, but Spidey has the good idea to shoot Doom with a web, so he would also get electrified, so Doom stops the trap.
This is when I learned that Spider-Man's webs conduct electricity.
Yes.
Wow.
The first time an electrified web situation happens, and then we have a Doombot grab Spider-Man from behind, but doesn't end up being able to hold him as Spider-Man chucks him right over his head at the real Doom.
He hits Doom in the face with the Doombot. It's great.
It is. That's a good panel. They battle some more. Doom thinks he's won, but he hasn't. Spider-Man is walloped again by Doom. He still hasn't actually won, though, and Spider-Man ends up making... Doom ends up having to flee because he catches the Fantastic Four. The Fantastic car is outside the window he sees, so he can't battle all 5 of them at once. He's not prepared anymore, so he's got to flee. Spider-Man saves Flash, who is still in the containment, and he pulls him out.
Spider-Man doesn't save him. Spider-Man just
save him.
fucks off and leaves.
Yeah, Spider-Man fucks off and leaves, but what Spider-Man did was he let him out of the containment field, but he didn't actually leave with him. As the Fantastic Four arrive and discover this little fucker Flash in the Spider-Man costume, and they're like, "What the heck's going on?" And we literally see the Fantastic Four for the one panel fully. So I said, "Thanks for coming, Fantastic Four," and then. We end off the issue with everybody back in school, and Flash is gloating that he took on and defeated Dr. Doom and made him look like a chump. So, yeah, great stuff.
Wow,
he's the big man on campus, the BMOC, as somebody says.
I was not going to acknowledge Stan's attempt at being cool.
That was so exciting. What an incredible episode.
Obviously, you're just not the BMOC.
Oh my god, I almost peed myself. This comic was just so good.
I'm glad you acknowledged that.
By the way, Dan, I would like to point out that Spider-Man, because of all the attention this comic has gotten, Spider-Man is now published monthly.
Ooh.
So make sure to reserve your copy of the sensational issue number 6 coming out soon.
Ooh. And I would care about this because
Spider-Man's monthly now.
Spider-Man twice as much.
Spider-Man's monthly now. It's great. And there was nothing that I had in my notes that was important from this letters page, so that is the end.
Kill me.
One thing I really liked that they did in the fight with Doom is that Spider-Man rather easily defeated most of his traps because they weren't designed for Spider-Man.
They were designed for the Fantastic Four.
They were all traps to get the Fantastic Four, so Spider-Man's power set just easily worked around them.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a clever touch. And it also, even though that happened, it made Doom look powerful because Spider-Man never really threatened him. He only left because the Fantastic Four showed up and he didn't want to fight 5 people at once.
Yeah. What was your rating for this one?
If you're going to do a draw... Oh, I gave it 4.
Oh, me too.
I'm feeling generous. I'll give it a 1. Well, no, you know what? I'll give it a 2 because I do like Dr. Doom. He's a great villain.
I had a note that said I don't get tired of seeing Dr. Doom. He's one of the films I don't get tired of seeing, so I was happy with this issue.
Yeah, it's a good choice to not bring Doom into other people's books too much.
Yeah. especially this early. He won't. There was no first appearance here. The one note I'll make character-wise is that Doom doesn't appear again until issue 23 of Fantastic Four. So we have to wait a little bit for his next appearance, but not too terribly long.
Well, that's why Doom's so much better than Namor at this point.
Because his appearances are more spread out.
Yeah, Namor, they're like, we don't have anything for this episode. Namor again.
Yeah.
Doom, you have to wait 6 months to a year to see the next time if you're reading in real time.
Yeah. So, do we have any other notes about this one?
Not really. This was just a good, solid issue, but
Yawn.
it was filler.
Yawn.
Anyways, on we go to Dan's story. One of Dan's stories. We have Strange Tales number 112, The Threat of the Living Bomb. What a great one you have this week. Actually, this is good for Strange Tales.
This is probably the best solo Human Torch story.
Okay, I will not believe you for one fucking second, but I will give it a chance.
This is just a really good episode with really good comics for the most part, but this one's actually really good.
The ending is really good.
Okay, this is it starts with a rather slightly disappointing Kirby cover.
The Threat of the Living Bomb is the story title, and it does start off with a disappointing Kirby cover. Stan Lee and Jerry Siegel are the writers.
That's probably why the story took a step up.
Probably. Dick Ayers is on art, and this is a full Dick Ayers experience on the art this time. And then Sam Rosen's on letters. I don't know if Dick Ayers did the cover by himself or Jack Kirby was also on that, but it's probably Kirby as well on the cover.
That is definitely a Kirby cover. Yeah. I don't think that's Ayers at all. That is a Kirby cover.
Yeah, that's what I figured. So there we go.
Okay, you know what? The synopsis for this is incredibly short. So
we might have to pad it a bit.
Yeah, you might have to pad it a bit.
It's only a 13-page story, so that doesn't
the synopsis is only about 9 lines.
June 1963 release, by the way.
Okay, so here we go. The Threat of the Living Bomb. The Torch's popularity is waned due to negative editorials made by newscaster Ted Braddock that have been turning public opinion against Johnny. Well, that's horrible. When a new villain known as the Eel steals Project X, a miniature atomic pile.
Yeah.
Do they not know anything about science?
No.
Yet.
Apparently.
They do not know anything about science. Huh?
The Torch, anyway, steal a miniature atomic pile, the Torch, with the help of Charles Lawrence, the inventor of device whatever, go after the Eel. When the device is at risk of explosion, the Torch tries to convince the Eel to give over the device. The Eel does not believe him and continues his attack. The Torch is forced to use his powers to take down the Eel's helicopter, I guess, and battle him on the ground. Ooh, kinky. The Torch manages to capture Project X, leaving the Eel with the arriving authorities. Johnny takes the bomb out to a safe place where it detonates, and he attempts to absorb the heat and flames from the explosion. He succeeds, but is seriously injured, and Reed Richards uses the device to try and heal Johnny. After Johnny recovers, Braddock retracts all his negative statements about the Human Torch and declares him a hero. And
that literally does not do the story justice.
Okay.
They do a lot of really good stuff in this.
Sure.
The reason the thing was actually going to explode, it had a little switch on it that you had to hit when it got exposed to air, like when you took it out of the box, to deactivate it.
Okay.
And they have a scene with the Eel opening the box and looking at the thing and being like, what the hell is this switch for? I'm not going to push it. I don't know what anything does.
And Brad Pitt's standing over in the corner screaming, what's in the box? What's in the box?
So you're going to shit on 7 tonight, too.
Oh, hell yeah. Actually, I kind of like 7. It wasn't bad.
Yeah, 7 was pretty good.
What's in the box? I'm sorry.
And then the other point, Johnny's not just seriously injured.
Okay.
It's killing him.
Awesome.
He's dying. Right? Yeah, and like people actually they actually sell that Johnny's dying. It's
And they couldn't
really
put that in the
good.
freaking synopsis?
It's actually
That's
really
why I said
good.
That would have been a
synopsis
major
was
seller.
Terrible for that story.
The death of Johnny whatever.
Yeah, like they sell for like 3 pages that Johnny's dying.
This
Yay!
this story literally takes a turnaround to being really fucking good as soon as Johnny starts dying.
Oh, it was good before that. It turns around as soon as the eel steals the box.
Fair enough.
The first couple of pages were really painful to get through. The stuff with just Braddock. But as soon as as soon as the eel steals that box, it's actually a really solid story.
What's in the box? I'm sorry. Actually, no, I'm not. What's in the box?
Damn it. I settled out on a 3 for this one. But if it was just the stuff after Braddock, it would have gotten a 4. It was just the part with Braddock at the start was pretty painful to get through that drug it down a bunch.
Well,
I gave this one a 3 as well. This shocked me because it's a really rough start. I literally, my last note in this is my exact last note for this one is, wow, that ended up being good out of nowhere.
Yeah.
I would give it a 3, but Johnny Torch survived, so it gets a 2.
I firmly believe this is the best solo Torch story they've done.
Well, it's in its defense, it's definitely slightly different, right? It's not some evil insert, ethnic minority here, threatening with communism or alien robots. So that's nice.
Yeah. Siegel incorporated some depth to it that isn't normally present, especially in the 13-page stories.
This would have been a better Iron Man story.
Yeah, but I don't think they would have had the out to keep Iron Man from dying to it is the problem. Because the one advantage Johnny had is that he's friends with Reed. So he could soak the radiation and Reed had an invention to get him out of it because they didn't actually want to kill off a character.
Yeah. Well, it's not the worst story that we've had for Johnny Torch.
Far from it.
Far from it.
Johnny, whatever the hell his name is, Johnny Storm.
The public interest thing was a little interesting as well, just with Johnny Storm, the public not liking him. That was kind of funny and kind of an interesting story.
Yeah, the problem was they didn't give Braddock a real reason
to dislike
him. It was a cop-out, I'm jealous of you story.
Yeah.
If they had done something, because he is an obnoxious show-off, Braddock was right about him.
I know, I have a note here that says, is Braddock really wrong?
Yeah. But,
yeah, that's fair.
They don't do anything with it, so it made it pointless.
When the public interest had waned at the start there, and Johnny was wondering why everybody was mad, I said, Johnny, they're mad because they've read your title.
Yeah, I did, it was a little rough read, but I liked what they were going for in the bit where everyone was mad at Johnny, and Johnny was trying to win them back over by just obnoxiously showboating. And it's exactly the wrong thing to do. If people are annoyed that you're an obnoxious show-off, this is not going to help things, Johnny.
It's also so Human Torch, though.
Oh, yeah, it was completely in character for him to do that. It was just that's why I liked that scene, because it's no, he would handle it exactly the wrong way.
I also had a funny realization while reading this comic. I didn't realize this was Dick Irish solely on going solo on art until the wizard was drawn and the wizard looked like a normal human being.
Oh, there's a issue coming up that you're going to get a kick out of when it comes to looking like a normal human being.
Well, I'm looking at the list of other characters, and one of them is called Baldy, a crime boss. His first and only known appearance.
Yep.
Yeah. But coming up, there is an episode or an issue with Puppet Master where Stan Lee had to write dialogue about him getting plastic surgery because Dick Ayers drew him like a normal person, and it was so off model that they had to acknowledge it in the script. And then in the episode afterwards, like, something fucked his face up again, so he went back to looking Kirby-esque.
Yeah.
So, Dan joked about characters before. The only real important character, important character note here is this is the Eel's first appearance. Of course, he will be back for at least two more times at least. So, yay!
Yeah.
The Eel is actually one of Johnny Storm's better villains. We'll take that how you will.
Yeah, the Eel's actually pretty good.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising he didn't take off more. But
well, he's not really interesting. He's just consistently in pretty good stories.
Yeah. I guess. Do we have any more notes?
Well, like I say, the synopsis I read was incredibly brief and disappointing. It doesn't really tell you anything. So
yeah, no, that was a weak synopsis. But
right, and unfortunately, Johnny survives, so there was no point behind the story.
There's actually, I just clicked on the Eel's name to see all of his appearances. There's way more than I thought there was.
He's a pretty slippery dude.
He's got to be brought back, like in the 80s or something, because
he has a little. You've gone past his 70s appearances. Actually, he had like 4 in the 70s that you must just forget because they weren't important. Because they're all in titles that might have been kind of shit.
Yeah, I've read a bunch of these, but I'm guessing he was just
he comes
like a
back in the 90s
character.
Too.
Because, yeah, I don't remember him in any of these.
Yeah, he was in the few.
Oh yeah, that's right. They stuck him in the Serpent Squad, and he was completely forgettable there.
Yep, that would do it.
And then he doesn't turn up again until.
He's in an issue of Ghost Rider that you might not have reached yet. I don't know.
No, I haven't seen his appearances in even the Defenders yet.
Oh, okay.
The forgettable Captain America run was the last I saw of him.
Ah, there you go.
There's a memorable Captain America run?
Ironically, that story was pretty good. It just didn't highlight the Eel.
Yeah.
So, I guess unless there's any of the
that
notes,
Englehart Captain America run was actually really solid.
I guess off we go to the Strange Tales Annual for some more Spidey action. So let's fucking go.
Yeah, this is really the dedicated Spider-Man story of the month, because the issue of Spider-Man with Doctor Doom read like a Fantastic Four story. And this one that you would expect to highlight the Fantastic Four is just a Spider-Man story.
Oh my god, the art on the cover is horrifyingly bad.
Yes, Kirby should never draw Spider-Man.
Wow. Oh my god, it's horrible.
Spidey's put on some water weight for this one.
Yeah.
He doesn't have his logo. He has extra weight on him.
Oh my god.
Kirby
You're right, he
cannot
doesn't
draw
have his
Spider-Man.
logo. Holy crap.
Yeah.
This is just, it's a very Kirby-esque cover to a point. At least the Torch looks very Kirby-esque, but
And the
Spider-Man looks
idea-
like something some freaking 8-year-old would have drawn in school.
The idea of that cover is great. It's just also super rushed.
Yeah.
And this whole issue, you can tell Kirby rushed the hell out of it.
Yeah.
He took it home for a weekend and just drew this whole thing.
Yeah, it's really bad.
Yep,
It doesn't get better.
On the Trail of the Amazing
Poor
Spider-Man.
Ditko had to try to ink this shit.
Wow.
On the Trail of the Amazing Spider-Man is the story title for this one. We have Stan Lee and Jack Kirby as the artist, but Steve Ditko, like Bill just said, is inking. They give both of them the cover credit, but it's
Ditko
definitely
probably
a Kirby
had
cover.
to ink it.
He probably had
No,
the
actually, he probably didn't ink it because he would have remembered the Spider-Man logo.
That's a good point, too. And then Artie Simic was on letters for this one. June 1963 release here, and this is a whopping 18-page story for a Human fucking Torch story. So here we go.
Well, like I said, this is not a
it's a
Human
Spider-Man
Torch story. This is an Amazing Spider-Man story, and a weak one.
Yep, so we open up we open up the issue, and it starts off with Johnny in his training session with his sister Sue, and they're training. Oh, this isn't the one where the kids interrupt. I got confused for a second. They all mix together when they do the same shit over and over. So
I gotta say, going into this issue, coming off of that gorgeously drawn Human Torch story we just read with the Dick Ayers art, was painful.
Yeah, the Dick Ayers art was really good in the last issue. This is fucking shit. Kirby saw he had Kirby's like he had the annual coming. He rushed this fucker.
Yeah, he probably forgot he had the annual coming until like 3 days before it was supposed to come out.
So Johnny reads he picks up a magazine and gets angry from reading an article with Spider-Man in it because he's not getting the attention to the Spider-Man. And yes, this whole story happens because Johnny Storm has a fucking tantrum. So we then go over to some thugs in action, and this is where we meet. Is this where we meet the Fox? I think no, not yet. I don't know.
Yeah, I think we meet this Fox. I don't think he has his name on this page. But
Yeah,
I'm pretty
that's
sure
why I'm
there.
confused. I think he's the guy with the.
I think he's the guy in the green with the monocle.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
It's hard to tell because Kirby's rushing the art so much. People's faces completely change from panel to panel.
Yeah, we meet the Fox here. He's not named yet, but he's kind of running his own crew here. They're doing some stick ups. The current one is a museum. But they have framed Spider-Man as the person who has done the thievery in the museum, and a news article gets out that says Spider-Man steals priceless painting. So Spidey has been effectively framed, and then his name has been said so many times that he's been summoned, and we see Spider-Man in the city, and he's like, "Whoa, I better clear my name. I better go to the Human Torch for help. See, he lives right in Glenville." He goes to outside the Human Torch and Sue Storm's home, and he sticks to the house, and he looks in the window, and Johnny Storm is like, "You creep, get away!" He flames on and rushes at Spider-Man, who dodges, and they
I feel bad constantly shitting on Jack Kirby's art, but that flame on panel, holy shit!
What?
They have a mini. They have a mini battle here. Spidey goes into the water as Torch is trying to shoot his fire at him. 'Cause, I mean, that's his gimmick. But Spidey comes up with a sopping wet ball of webs and throws it at Johnny. Johnny then pisses me the fuck off by spawning some fire clones.
What?
And
seriously,
there's 4.
Oh my god!
And they can move independently.
Yeah, there's 1 real Human Torch and 3 clones, so there's 4 altogether.
No, there's 4 clones. You were right.
It's all 4
There's
clones?
a panel with Spidey dodging through 5 of them.
I was right. Yep, there's 5 there when he first spawns them. Okay. So yeah, there's 1 real one, 4 clones, and yeah, I got mad for a moment reading this, but Spidey comes back. He freezes Human Torch with a mechanism.
He shoots him with a cement mixer.
Yeah, cement mixer. It looks like ice, or snow, but it's not really.
Yeah, no, it's cement. He seals him in cement.
The cement seals him in and stops him, but Johnny breaks free. And Spider-Man has kind of fled for the moment. We then see Spidey has created. He's done an upgrade to his web shooters, and he goes to head back out and try to convince Human Torch that he's not a bad guy.
He's mixed ice into his webbing.
Yeah, that's his. That's what he's done. So he has something to dose the Human Torch's flame.
They didn't go with the bullshit of he can just put ice in it. They came up with a compound that's just like super cold.
Yeah. So they initiate a battle once again, and Spider-Man traps him. Spider-Man traps him in a web. Not that you could really tell, because my God, that's bad art. Holy shit. But he's like, Torch, calm down. I'm the good guy here. Let's just listen to me, you fucking dumbass. And then he douses him with the new web invention that he had, the crystals, the silicone crystals. He douses him and it makes his flame go out. So he has been taken care of. He's been calmed down for a bit, and then Spider-Man goes to take care of this Fox problem alone, since Torch is so fucking hot-headed and not willing to be a help.
He could just use a fire extinguisher, right? It would not only put out Johnny's fire, it would knock Johnny out. Because he wouldn't have air, so he'd black out.
Years of professional wrestling have taught me that you can get sprayed by a fire extinguisher and be completely fine.
It depends on what compound is in the extinguisher.
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting to go into some talk about a fire extinguisher.
Well, I'm just saying, if you want to get rid of Johnny Torch.
The technology he incorporated into his web is actually the way to make a fire extinguisher work.
Yeah.
There you go.
It's actually, for once, Dan got the science right. I didn't think of that until Dan mentioned fire extinguishers. But that's actually what he did. He built fire extinguisher stuff into his webbing.
But Dan, why would you carry a fire extinguisher around and carry it just
because there's some little dick named Johnny Torch flying around burning everything?
Why do that when you could just crush crystals into a compound and put it inside your web?
Because I'm not fucking Spider-Man. I'm Batman.
So Torch goes to
I miss my mommy and daddy.
Martha!
Sorry, Martha.
God damn it, now you've got me disrupting this too.
Torch goes to a detective on the case, and he learns the details that the detective has that actually points out that the Fox might be behind this whole museum heist thing. So Johnny's then like, maybe I should work together with that Spider-Man guy, and leaves a message from fire in the sky for Spidey to see, and then they meet up at the Statue of Liberty, and they're gonna team up now.
Oh, goody.
So yeah,
don't worry, Dan.
Dickhead and the
We're
Wimp.
13 pages into this story. We're almost done.
God, please, yes.
So the Fox, dressed as an old woman, calls
with a completely different shaped face.
The Fox, dressed as an old woman, calls for Spider-Man.
Oh, sorry, that's just rust art.
And then, whoa, the old woman is actually the Fox, and
he gets Spider-Man all sticky because he contracted Paste Pot Pete to build a trap.
Yeah, but
some of that is a lie.
But
expressly to contacting Paste Pot Pete.
But Spidey, but this hasn't done Spidey in, because now he has the Human Torch with him. So they chase after the Fox, and
after the Human Torch melts the container of sticky white liquid out of Spider-Man's hands.
Yes, and they end up back fighting some of the Fox's men as they find a entrance underneath a statue, and it opens up and the men start shooting, but Spidey and Torch stop them, and then they track the Fox down, who quite simply is caught, and then a mask is pulled off of the Fox's face. As was he trying to hide his identity? Is that what was going on here?
He was trying to hide his identity and the painting.
Yeah, but he's still wearing the same fucking outfit, so there's a bit of...
Honestly, the face with the mask and the face without the mask look basically the same, so I'm not sure what was going on. I assume that's just more rushed art.
the fox has been caught, and the Finchie, the stolen Da Vinci painting. That's been an important plot point. Has been recovered, and Spidey thinks Johnny's gonna burn it, but Johnny is powerful, and he turns off the flame from his hand so he can touch it safely. Keep in mind that the rest of his body's still on fire, and there's totally no way that could backfire.
Yeah, that's totally gonna melt the paint off it.
Yeah, not like there's any sparks that could come off the rest of his body or anything. But yeah, but Spidey and Human Torch's first successful mission together. Look at that.
I get the feeling that at some point Jack thought this was going to be a 13-page story. Seriously, because the sections where they're cleaning out the various hiding places of the fox, there's like 4 pages where Spider-Man uses his Spidey sense, because they're doing that bullshit again, to find one of the hideouts, and they go in and they fight the goons in there and capture them all, and the fox isn't there. And it happens literally like 4 times in a row. And it's super repetitive. I mean, it's kind of fun reading because it's a comic book and the fights are good. But it's just the same event over and over again. And I really feel like they were padding the page count because they probably wrote this to be a 14-page story and then found out it's supposed to be 18 pages and had to rapidly fill 4 pages.
Yeah, this was an interesting entry for sure. I gave this one 3 stars, but going through it again, this actually isn't arguably that good, but
I gave it 3 stars, and I'm comfortable with that, because excluding the bad rushed art, which I really wasn't rating on, like I've been primarily rating on the story, not the art, unless the art's incredibly out of place or so, but the story was fine. I didn't hate anything in it. It was completely, utterly pointless. But it was fine. I wouldn't have been mad if I bought this comic.
yeah, fair enough. I don't know if there's much more to say on that one. I'm gonna look at my notes real quick. Apparently, Johnny had some funny Spider-Girl line that I completely missed on my recap there.
I've read this twice, and I don't remember that line.
So, yeah.
Oh, wait. I think he, threw shade at Sue. I think that's what it was.
Yeah, it might have been. I didn't have many notes for this one. It was just a pretty quick read.
This episode, or issue, I don't know why I keep using TV terminology tonight.
You do that every week, to be fair.
Do I?
Yeah.
Okay, well, this issue is completely pointless. Annuals are usually pointless.
Yeah.
But this one is especially pointless.
Yeah, it's just a team up for Spider-Man Torch. That's literally the whole point of it.
Yeah. It would be a very good Strange Tale story, or a somewhat disappointing Amazing Spider-Man story. Probably the latter, because after the first little setup with Johnny, it's basically told from Spider-Man's POV for the rest of the issue.
Yeah. That's completely true. I'm very happy this wasn't an Amazing Spider-Man issue.
That's why, I'm glad too, but this is why I kept joking that this is the Spider-Man story of the week.
Yeah. So, in terms of characters, the only important, in quotes, appearance here is the Fox. First appearance. His next and only other appearance is in Spider-Man Unlimited number 5 from 1993.
And Spider-Man Unlimited is a retelling of the early years of Spider-Man.
So
so he never turns up again.
He never technically turns up again. It's a fucking reprint.
So are we not going to mention Spider-Man's spider signal?
That's shown up a few times before, I think.
Been around for a bit.
Wow.
That appeared, I think, in issue number 2 of the series or something like that.
Yeah, they used that a lot early on. It's fading from prominence now. It still turns up periodically.
It was issue 2 or 3 that it appeared, I think, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't really...
Okay.
Don't think it turns out this episode there's actually not a lot to talk about before the Fantastic Four annual.
Which there's not a lot to talk about. Yeah.
Yeah, there's not going to be a huge amount to talk about on this one either.
Really? Okay, well, this might be our quickest episode yet if we keep it up.
Cool.
Yeah, I mean, the challenging part for this was doing all the reading, because most of these, we didn't have a lot of short ones in here. There's the 6-page Spider-Man, the 13-page Torch, and otherwise everything's at least a full-length comic.
Starting to think I should have left the 6th Century in here, but that's okay.
No,
I think it was good because, like we said, Fantastic Four is long.
Yeah, Fantastic Four is long. It will be the longest coverage story.
I think my summarizing this is going to take a while because they jammed a ton of stuff in here. I just don't see us having a lot to say about it after I'm finished.
Fair enough. Speaking of, we'll go right into Fantastic Four Annual number 1. This is the first Fantastic Four Annual, pretty big deal. A lot of important things happen in these annuals early on, so it's pretty cool.
Fantastic Four Annuals actually matter.
Yeah, they do. Some Spider-Man ones do. Actually, honestly, early on, annuals are decently important overall. The last one wasn't like great or anything, but that was still technically a big deal because it was the team up. So these annuals early on are actually pretty important.
Yeah, it's once they become the giant size that they start to suck. Like instead of being classed as annuals, they're classified as like special giant sizes or special king sizes. Those ones are pretty terrible.
This one's called Submariner versus the Human Race, and we have Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, of course, with Dick Ayers inking and helping Kirby on the cover as well with some inks. And then we have colors by Glynis Wayne. Who the hell are you?
She'll do a lot of work on Hulk when it gets relaunched.
Oh, I'm just looking at some of her credits. That's okay. She has some good work. I didn't notice that there was a different person on this when I first read this.
That's because we have the recolored Marvel Unlimited version.
Well, no, yeah, true. But normally I do look at the credits when I'm reading too, and I didn't remember that. So, but Artie Simic's on letters.
Oh, don't worry, she's not credited in the comic.
Oh, probably not. It's a woman.
They just have written, drawn, inked, and lettered. They don't mention the colorist because she has that pesky double X chromosome.
Yeah. July 1963 release, and as we teased earlier, this is a 37-page story. So, off we go. This one's for Bill.
They even tease on the splash page the longest uninterrupted super epic of its kind ever published.
They sure do.
Which means they've clearly forgotten that in the 40s they published a couple of issues of Miss Fury that were like 50 pages long each.
Oh, shit.
And for the record, absolutely worth chasing down. They're probably the most detailed and nuanced comics from the Golden Age that I've read.
Cool.
They're very long, but they're really good. Anyway, on to something else that's very long and slightly less good. This story opens with Namor having rediscovered
Did you just say the Miss Fury is better than this?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, sorry, I had to make that clear. Okay, go on.
The villains have nuance to them.
You know what? Good point. Fair enough. Maybe I should hunt those down myself.
If you ever do a full read-through, they turn up in there. Except they're disappointing because Marvel stopped publishing them and someone else took over, so they just disappear. So I never found out how that story ends.
Fuck. That sucks.
Anyway, this one starts off with Namor having found his people and immediately reinstated himself as king. Despite the fact that he's always called Prince, he effectively rules as a king. And they all swear undying fealty to him. We're introduced to a female Atlantean named Dorma, who, with a slightly different design, will become important in the future. And Warlord Krang, who teases insurrection, but never actually follows through on it until later as well. They're laying the early groundwork for Submariner's solo series here. And Dorma is deeply, deeply in love with Submariner and is convinced that he is going to be her husband. Well, Krang just resents him because Krang wants to rule the people.
Okay.
And all this setup currently has no point because we cut over to Baxter Building, where Torch is annoying Ben. And so Ben smashes up half the room trying to get at him, and eventually tries to kill him with a fire hose, ruining all of Sue's stuff in the process. And they're eventually calmed down, and Reed tells them that they think everyone needs a vacation. That's why everyone's on edge. So why don't they go on a nice, peaceful cruise that's absolutely not just Reed's excuse to investigate reports of sea monsters? And everyone immediately catches on that Reed wants to investigate the sea monsters. But they agree to go on vacation anyway. And Alicia shows up, so they're like, sure, why don't we take the blind civilian along with us? And they go. They get on a cruise ship. We get a page of shenanigans until they see a bunch of sea monsters. Well, Johnny sees them. And so Johnny goes get Ben, and they round up the rest of the Fantastic Four and get into a rowboat and go out looking for the source of these monsters. And Johnny's flying along ahead of them until he's shot down by a fish that spits water at him. And Reed stretches out and tries to grab him, but before he can get a hold of him, he's sucked up into an oxygen-filled, giant-sized magnetic seashell. Stan's words, not mine. And then Ben and Sue are trapped in the boat by a fish that spits a plastic bag around them. I think it's supposed to be an air bubble, but it looks like a plastic bag. And they're sucked down and put in an air-filled prison by Namor, who had been conspiring to capture the Fantastic Four. And that's why the sea monsters were getting seen. He wanted them to be seen so they'd come and investigate. And now that he's captured the Fantastic Four, he's free to get back to his important role of conquering the surface world, or at least protecting his people from them. He's somewhat divided on that. So he gets a television fish to show them that he sent the cruise ship back to New York, and it will arrive in a couple hours because he's got some sort of... I guess it's supposed to be caught in a current that'll just suck it back, but they're not real clear on how it's getting moved. And he launches the Fantastic Four in this air bubble rocket ship thing back to the Baxter Building. And they go and demand an emergency session of the UN to explain the problem. They go to the UN and tell them that Namor has demanded that no humans enter, sail on, or fly over any body of water on Earth because that's Namor's domain and he would view it as a violation of his sovereignty. And then we get some comedy in air quotes about the Soviet representative banging his shoe on the table whenever he says something, because that's topical. Dan gets the joke.
Yeah.
And so they get this bearded old scientist guy to explain the origins of Namor and his people. And the scientists tell them about how at the dawn of time, many animals left the sea and went and lived on the land, and some returned, such as the whale, and another one that returned to the sea, is the species that came to be known as Homo mermanus, or the Atlanteans. And they give the story of the rise of Atlantis, which is pretty entertaining but not terribly relevant to a recap.
Yeah.
Basically, they just built an underwater civilization. It may or may not be high-tech. At this point, they're still toying with everything being a product of undersea life, but later on, that gets retconned to Atlantis is technologically advanced. And then that carries on to 1920, which means that Namor is 44 at the time of this story.
He's in pretty good shape for his age.
Yeah, and there's an Antarctic expedition commanded by one Captain Leonard Mackenzie, which is a name that will become very important in the future, even though he dies in like 3 weeks. Spoilers. And they start blowing up, they're exploring the Antarctic, and they start blowing up icebergs to clear the way for the ship, because I guess icebreakers hadn't been invented yet.
Well, not that are going to break an iceberg.
Nah. And this starts wrecking the houses down in Atlantis, which is... No, I don't think this is Atlantis. It's not real clear, because they had Atlantis, but then he rediscovered Atlantis in the middle of the ocean. So I think they skimmed over the fact that the civilization in the... Yeah, they definitely skimmed over it. I just rechecked. The civilization in the Antarctic is not Atlantis. It's where they went when they left Atlantis and migrated to the south. This was from the Golden Age comics, that this was expressly clarified, and then it becomes canon again in the future. But I believe at the point they wrote this, they had forgotten that Atlantis was in a different place, and so it's just told as if it's all the same city.
So destroying the icebergs causes a titanic struggle.
Yeah, that one didn't work as well as most of them.
I know. I'm scrambling.
Yeah. And so the king...
It's so boring that there's nothing to work with here.
Oh my god, that was painful.
I mean, if it makes you feel better, we're 18 pages through the story at this point.
How is that supposed to make me feel better?
What? It's only 37
we're not in
pages
Incredible
long.
Hulk, where we're in 7 pages at this point.
Yeah, I suppose. Sort of.
Yeah. And so the king sends his daughter, Princess Fen, up to see where the explosions are coming from. I mean, the main story is almost over at this point. Problem is they came up with a second one to fill the second half. The king sends his daughter, Princess Fen, up to see what's going on. And she goes up onto the ship, and her and Mackenzie immediately fall in love and get married.
Yay! And there was much rejoicing.
And do what married people do, although that plot part is glossed over. And then Mackenzie gets killed. And, but fortunately, Fen was pregnant, and she had a half-human, half-Atlantean son, who is Namor. And, at this point, Reed cuts them off and recaps previous encounters with the Submariner, and then goes, but we can't agree to this deal. That is stupid and would completely cripple the human race because they can't travel within politics. And before he's even finished, said that, saying that they won't agree to the deal, Fenton, the scientist, starts taking off his clothes, revealing himself to be Namor in disguise. And so Namor goes back to the ocean before anyone can catch him, amasses his army, and immediately invades New York. And he's doing a pretty good job of taking it over. The Fantastic Four tried to stop him. They fight for a while, and he captures Sue. So they surrender.
What a bunch of wussies.
And they've completely...
Superheroes my ass.
Oh no, he hasn't captured Sue yet. He just they couldn't stop him, and he took over all of Manhattan and has conquered it. And Reed tries to figure out what's going on, and he realizes that all the Atlanteans have to wear helmets full of water when they're on dry land. So he realizes that Namor's the only one that can breathe outside of water. And so he starts building some absolutely gigantic piece of equipment, which immediately tips over and falls on him. And Thing lifts it up, and they haul him out from under there. But he's injured, despite the fact that he went flat when it fell on him. And he's only conveniently injured when it's important to the plot. But then immediately not injured as soon as it doesn't matter anymore. And so he gets Ben and Sue to finish using the machine. And they set it off, and it evaporates all the water in the in the Atlanteans' helmets. And so they all run back to the ocean, forget about invading New York, and you'd think story over. But we're only on page 25. They have 12 pages to fill. So Namor gets mad and goes to the Fantastic Four's hideout and gets in a fight with Reed. He wins, but it's kind of a draw. And then they yell at him for fighting with a guy that's on his sick bed. Thing tries to fight him. Torch tries to fight him. He gasses them and then kidnaps Sue. And the gas blows up, and the rest of them are completely unhurt, and somehow Reed is no longer injured. And so they set off to rescue Sue. Johnny flies out over the ocean and makes a fire listening device to look for her. And he finds the Submariner's submarine that way. And we cut over to the interior, where Dorma and Krang have figured out that Submariner is hopelessly in love with Sue. So, they're plotting something, but Namor leaves to go fight with Johnny. And he fights with Johnny, and Johnny goes and superheats a blast into the water and all the way to the bottom of the ocean to set off an underground or underwater volcano. And Namor summons some sort of a big vacuum cleaner fish to suck him up. But just then the rest of the Fantastic Four arrive and save him. And they fight some more. Threats are made. More fighting. Even more fighting, and then Namor gets some big-ass hammerhead sharks to smash up the Fantastic Four submarine. And so they're stranded. Namor goes back to the sub. And Krang and Dorma are talking about how he's clearly going to kill Sue as well. And then he realizes that, and then they realize that no, he won't. So Dorma gets super jealous and decides she'll murder Sue herself. So she gets a big metal beam and smashes out the window to the submarine so it starts filling with water, with the plan being that she's going to drown Sue. And Sue gets out and tries to swim to the surface despite her hands being tied. The rest of the Fantastic Four are still fighting with Namor when they see Sue's lifeless body floating in the water because she couldn't swim all the way to the surface with her hands tied. And so they all dive in and rescue her, including Namor. And she's barely still alive. And so they need to get her to the hospital. And the only one who can do it, since their sub-plane car thing, I think it's just a Fantastic car that now can turn into a sub, has been incapacitated by the sharks. Namor goes to his sub, kicks everyone out of it so it's super lightweight, goes back, loads Sue into the sub, takes her to the hospital. Meanwhile, Reed repairs their craft, and they go back to land. And they go to the hospital to see Sue, who's alright and still kind of in love with Namor. Everyone celebrates that Sue's going to be okay, And Namor goes back to Atlantis to discover that his entire race has fucked off and left him for being in love with a human. The end.
And actually, it's called the amphibious U-car. So,
Whatever, they're not that clear in the story.
probably not. No, I wasn't really reading along with you, to be fair. Quite the comic, huh? Dan, you still alive? No? Okay.
Yeah,
great.
I'm still here. I have no. Why didn't Sue just use her little force bubble that she uses to help her rise to the surface?
She doesn't have that yet.
Oh.
They haven't given her
convenient.
force field yet.
Jesus. Okay,
That's
never
coming
mind.
in another few issues.
That's why we keep making fun of her being useless. When they give her force fields, she actually starts being useful.
So I gave this one 3 stars.
I gave it 5, mostly on historical significance.
Whoa.
Because this is the first time in the modern era we get an explanation of Atlantis. It's the first time we learn Namor's origin.
For some reason, I thought you gave it 4. I forgot. I didn't realize it was a 5.
I might have said I gave it 4 because sometimes when I told you what I rated them, I was going off memory rather than going back in and looking up what my rating was.
Fair enough.
And having reread this, the only reason it got a 5 was because the average comic quality at this point is so low. Because having reread this is not a 5-star comic.
No, but based on
Really?
average and realistic, the only reason I didn't give it a 4 was because it was too long. That was my reason. Or because
this would be a 5-star comic if after the invasion it was over, and then they did the whole thing with the Sioux kidnapping as a different story.
I did like the suit.
Yeah, but they've already done the Sioux kidnapping. Like,
They did, but
this is better than the
I
other
mean,
ones.
when have comics ever shied away from being repetitive?
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I almost gave this 4 stars when I originally read it, but it was just too long.
In my opinion, this should be 4 stars, and
On
I
average,
could
it is.
justify the 5 if it had been cut after the invasion. Because
Or
let's be honest, that's
made
been
more
done
interesting, or even remotely worthy. But yeah, we'll give it a 2.
I mean, part of the more interesting is because I'm trying to compress 37 pages
Okay,
down
that's
to
fair.
not an hour of talking about this comic.
Yeah. Yeah, well, okay, one positive thing, they actually tried to take, an annual issue and give it a properly full story.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't just, 30 pages of filler and 2 pages of story. It was an actual proper, novella. It's
Well, after, like we were saying about the Strange Tales, at this point, the annuals are important. The next 2 or 3 Fantastic Four annuals are all monumentally important issues. Because the next one, I think, is where Reed and Sue get engaged. The one after that, they get married. And the one after that is when Franklin's born.
Yeah.
So these are like, at this point, they're intending them to be milestone issues. And then at some point, I guess someone decided that's too much work and they just became, let's put a bunch of filler and reprints in here.
yeah.
So, yeah. I was out of I was out of here for a bit, so I don't know if you touched on some of the stuff I have in my notes, so I'm gonna quickly run through some stuff. There was a great bit where Finn is writing a note to the Anti-Street Gang that was hilarious in this.
Yeah, I completely cut over that because I knew this was going to be too long to go into the shenanigans.
Yeah.
There are fireworks outside.
This was the this was the
Seriously,
first time.
There's a huge fireworks show going on.
Wow.
Nice.
This is the first time I remembered them calling Namor a mutant, which is a pretty big deal, and I don't know if you pointed that
Yeah, I forgot to mention that. I was thinking of it, and then I got carried away and didn't actually say it.
And that's about all I really needed to point out, I think.
There's a couple other important things. I mentioned them in passing, but to drive home, this is the first appearance in the modern comics of Lady Dorma, who's incredibly important in Submariner's solo book. First appearance of Princess Fen in the main order. First appearance of Leonard Mackenzie in the main order. First appearance of the Holy One in the main order. And first appearance of Warlord Krang, who is another incredibly important character in Submariner's solo books. So, in the lore of Submariner, this is easily the most important thing we've read.
Yeah, no, this sets up a lot for Submariner's future. Some of them appear sooner than others in terms of when their next appearances are, but they all come back to Submariner.
And Submariner does predate Aquaman, just in case anybody's wondering.
Yeah, but he didn't have the fish powers until after Aquaman.
Okay, no, but he predates him by 2 years almost.
Yeah. This Aquaman, and I'm talking Golden and Silver Age Aquaman here, stuff with the different fishes with the powers.
Yeah.
That's totally ripping off DC. Because he didn't have that in the Golden Age. It's something they brought in the Silver Age when they brought Submariner back. And they got bored of it very quickly and went back to the Golden Age Submariner, where his superpowers were really just
super strength,
getting stronger by exposure to water, flight, and general super strength.
Oh my god, he's Percy Jackson. I knew it.
Well, Kirby does like erasing character growth, so...
That's an erasure I'm glad of, because the fish powers are stupid and don't make any sense when you know anything about real fish.
To be fair, I also hate the fish powers, so I'm kind of happy about that.
They're clearly just done by people who know nothing about the underwater, just like all the weird jungle creatures you'd see in the 50s by people who didn't know anything about the actual jungle.
Yeah.
La 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 la, don't be shy.
So Dan, do you have a synopsis? Do you have a 2-sentence synopsis for the Beast story at all, or are we gonna
the Beast story on this one?
Run through it. Yeah.
Just 1 second. Fantastic Four meet Spider-Man.
Yes.
Yeah, I do have a little synopsis. It's about 2 paragraphs.
It only deserves a little one anyway.
Yeah.
It's 6
It's
pages.
a 6-page story that's probably good enough if it's more than like 2 sentences.
Yeah. Okay. Well, here we go. Are you ready? Is everybody ready for this?
Aye, Captain.
Hang on to your seats. This is going to be amazing. The fabulous Fantastic Four meets Spider-Man.
Ooh.
Yeah, actually, should, before you dive into that, we should run through the creative team on this.
Okay, go for it.
This is Stan Lee and Jack Kirby, inked by Ditko, and lettered by Ray Holloway. The only really interesting contribution is Ditko on inks.
Okay. There we go. So they finally get to meet again for the first time. Okay. Seeking to monetize his abilities, Spider-Man pays a visit to the Fantastic Four to see if they will hire him onto their team. Clever. Shooting a web line the street. Wow, synopsis is poorly written. The wall crawler tightrope walks to the Baxter building. There, he sets off security screening, alerting the Fantastic Four to his presence. You'd think a Spidey sense would tell him there was something there. Breaking through a plastic screen, Spider-Man is attacked by the Fantastic Four. The wall crawler holds his own against the team. Eventually, Mr. Fantastic holds off his teammates and demands to know what Spider-Man wants. I just want to be loved. I'm such a fucking dork. Nobody likes me. Please be my friend. Sorry, I'm just subtexting here. The masked vigilante explains that he was showing off his abilities so that the Fantastic Four would hire him. Spider-Man soon learns, much to his dismay, that the Fantastic Four are really, really cool and he's a dick, so they don't want anything to do with him. Oh, no, that's not what it says. That the Fantastic Four is a not-for-profit organization and any revenue they generate goes towards their various scientific experiments.
Reed Richards does have a history of hating money, to be fair.
Okay. Furious about this rejection, Spider-Man leaves, vowing to make the Fantastic Four look bad. As they watch the wall crawler leave, the Fantastic Four are worried that this new costume hero may become a menace. And that's it.
That was actually way more in depth than I was expecting, given that this is literally a reprint of something from Spider-Man 2.
Oh, okay. I was going to say it sounded very obviously familiar.
Spider-Man 1.
It's just the fight from Fantastic.
It's just more
Spider-Man
details.
2.
Yeah.
Expanded
Spider-Man
out
number
to 6
1.
pages from the original 2 pages.
Yeah.
Because apparently a lot of people were whining about not seeing more of that, but I strongly suspect that what it actually was they had a few pages to fill, and figured it was a good way to do it.
Yeah.
Because I can't see the demand.
Yeah.
I can't see the demand for the retelling of that fight to be that high.
Spider-Man and Thor can hang out together, and the two of them can sit in a corner and whine about the women they love that don't love them back. That'd make for a great comic.
Bitterness aside, this comic was decent.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, I gave it 3 stars because it was fun, but it was
Pointless.
too utterly pointless to be anything more than 3 stars.
Yeah, I gave it 3 as
Can I
well.
make a point here? Because
Maybe.
I'm just within the context of the past 12, 14 shows that we've done with this. It's kind of a given that a lot of these stories will be pointless because they were kind of just churning out.
Absolutely, and even today with like the event comics, and so that they're trying to make more overarching stories. There's still a decent amount of filler that gets pushed through.
Yeah.
When you have to publish a story every month.
Yeah.
With the same character.
Yeah, and
there's a certain amount of times that you just can't advance the plot
enough to you advance it to a point where it's over. And then you have to come up with something new.
Yeah, and in between those points you just have issues that exist, and it's just like, hey, let's draw a cool fight.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was my point. It's a given that some of them will be pointless regardless.
Yeah, that's why when I call something pointless, it still often gets 3 stars. I'm not going to give it 4 or 5 if it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
But it doesn't. Calling a comic book pointless doesn't mean it's bad.
True.
Like, not so much with this one, but I know I called the Amazing Spider-Man that we covered today pointless as well because it completely didn't involve the plot, advance any plot at all. It was
pointless.
Just, hey,
wouldn't
it be cool if Spider-Man fought Dr. Doom? And the answer is yes. Yes, that's very cool. But neither Doom nor Spider-Man's story was advanced at all by that encounter.
Yeah.
Exactly.
No, because I guess it's just I'm beginning to think it's a little unfair to always say they're pointless, even though they are. It's still a little unfair because
I try to say inconsequential more than pointless.
Yeah.
I guess when I use it, I just mean like
it does nothing.
I'm kind of trying to say that if like someone's looking for important issues
or important events,
over.
These ones are utterly skippable. You're not gonna like if you like the characters and you like the writing, great, you'll have fun reading them. If you're looking for key events, these are not them.
Yeah.
The only thing that had a key event that we covered today was that Fantastic Annual, which ironically was the worst thing we covered today.
Ah.
Like the first part.
Yeah.
Like, that one, it was drawn out and it was kind of boring. It was definitely the worst thing to talk about, not the worst story-wise, but it was long and it was drawn out and there was a whole bunch of fluff and filler in there because 37 pages is a lot, especially when you're not used to writing stories for that length.
Yeah, and that's entirely fair.
It was the one that mattered. Like if you're trying to read important stuff, that's the one you got to touch because that's the one that covers Namor's origin and the origins of the Atlanteans.
Yeah.
Everything else was, even though it was none of that stuff mattered, but it was also really fun. There wasn't a single comic I disliked this week.
Oh, well, that's positive. Can't say that I was that fond of the Human Torch routine. That story was kind of irritating.
There wasn't a single comic that they liked this
No,
week.
no, I don't. That's well. Do I say that's not fair?
The one with Spider-Man or the solo one? Because the solo one wasn't. Yeah, and a lot of that was unfortunately the synopsis you
was non-existent. Yeah,
didn't do that story justice at all. That was the one I enjoyed the most.
Yeah.
This month.
Yeah, like I say, it didn't do anything for me as far as getting my attention or holding my attention. Even when you guys were trying to explain it to me, it was like, oh God, who cares? Right? It's like it's just not.
Yeah, I can totally see that. It honestly, it's one that you had to read to really appreciate.
Yeah, and that's entirely fair.
Yeah, because the thing that made it special to me was A, the art, and B, the fact that it was actually 3 whole pages of, no, Torch is actually dying, as opposed to what they normally did in comics of this issue, where it's maybe a panel or 2 of him dying, and then they're like, oh, no, he's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you're lucky, they put a page break in there, so there's a bit of suspense.
I can't believe I'm going to say this out loud. I cannot wait to get some more Iron Man stories in here.
Well, you won't have to wait long.
Oh, hey, I just created a segue.
You sure did, as next week we have an interesting week ahead of us next week. We're going to start off next week with Sergeant Fury and his Howling Commandos, issue number 3, which is Midnight on Massacre Mountain. Not the most important issue per se, but there's a fun moment in that one that should be interesting to talk about.
The most monumental thing about that issue is that it's the issue before the important issue.
There's a moment in there that's important. We have Journey in the Mystery number 96, a story, which is Thor versus Merlin. It should be fun to talk about. We have a shitty 5-page story about Medusa that Bill's going to have to inform us about because I haven't read it. We have Avengers issue number 1, the first... the first gathering of the Avengers as they come together to face Loki. And then we have Tales of Suspense, number 45, the first appearance of Jack Frost in a very important issue in general.
That's the point where the quality on Iron Man really takes a jump.
This is where Iron Man gets good, and Dan was already looking forward to Iron Man, so hopefully Dan continues to
That just feels so wrong to say.
2 Iron Man stories in a row, too, because he's in Avengers.
Yeah, Tales to Astonish issue number 47 comes after that, where the story is called Music to Scream By, and there sure might be some screaming having to read this one again. And we come to the main offense, where we have a Strange Tales issue with number 113 and the first appearance of Plant Man. So yes, next week we went from 5 this week. We're doing 7 next week. There's some of these
because
that we go through, and we have a. Well, we have a 5-page story next week, and it'll be quick to get through some of them. So.
And then most of the ones we're covering are 13 pages.
Yeah, so...
Small blessings, because every 13th-page story also sucks.
The next couple weeks are
Except for
7
Jack Frost. Jack Frost was good.
The next couple weeks are 7 entry weeks, because the week after also has some 5-pagers. So we'll knock some out of the way so we can get through a stretch here.
Yeah, well, counting a 5-pager is almost at all pointless, except for now I feel self-conscious about that word because I realize I use it a lot.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to make you feel self-conscious. I just felt like we were overusing it.
Yeah, no, I totally get your point. It's something I'm now realizing I say a lot. But the only time 5-page stories really are even worth counting towards our number of stories covered is when we get into Tales of Asgard, and that's because there's times where there will be like 10 of them in a row, and we can't just not count any of those because 50 pages adds up.
Oh yeah.
And also Tales of Asgard are awesome.
They are. We'll get to that soon. So pretty interesting week next week. Bill and I are probably gonna have a lot to shit on about next week, and then we also do have a couple real good ones in there. So
we have
in.
some good stuff. But next week, full disclosure, has my largest quantity of 1-star comics of any episode we'll have released.
Yeah. So tune back in for episode 16. Should be a lot of fun. We also have our bonus episode coming at some point this month that we will talk about at some point.
Yes.
Which will be the first phase of the MCU that we're going to talk about.
Which
so that's going to be a lot of fun.
I think is actually going to be. I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's going to be
Me
fun.
too.
Yeah, I think all our MCU discussions, because spoilers, we're eventually going to discuss at least phases 2 and 3 as well. Phase 4 would require some of us to get off our asses and actually watch it.
Yeah.
Phase 4 is up for debate at the moment. Mainly because Bill's not good at watching shows, and the shows are they kind of try to make them important, so it might get in the way a little bit, but we'll see how it goes.
Right, but
I also have zero motivation to watch any of the movies from that phase at this point.
Yeah.
I want to watch them. I'm just doing a watch through at the moment.
I can say absolutely flat out honestly, the Eternals was worth watching. The rest of them, meh. But I did enjoy Eternals.
That's the one I'm pulled the most towards, which is hilarious, because I don't like the concept of the Eternals in comics.
Sure. Then you wouldn't enjoy it then.
I haven't liked Jack Kirby's New Gods.
Okay, no, I didn't like the New Gods either, but I did, for some reason that completely eludes me, I did take to the Eternals when he first came out with it. I really liked it.
You heard it here, folks. Stan enjoyed a Marvel comic.
I did. I really liked the Eternals.
Yeah, I'm hoping when I actually hit Eternals in my read-through, I'm going to like it, because it's one of those things I've only seen turn up in comics I read, and sometimes that can do an incredible disservice to the character.
Yeah.
Because, before I encountered them in their own titles in the read-through, both Luke Cage and Black Panther seemed like they sucked. Because neither one of them is ever written good when they turn up in someone else's book.
Yeah, okay. That happens to a lot of superheroes, though, because...
It does, but usually they're superheroes I'm familiar with. So, if Spider-Man shows up and is written off character... Or Black Widow, but let's be fair, in her early books, she's pretty terrible in her own book, too.
That's fair. I was sticking more to modern-wise.
Yeah, you see,
but, those characters I already like, so I can kind of forgive. Whereas often a crossover into a book, despite the fact that it's done for marketing, is the worst way to get you to read.
It is.
Especially Black Panther suffered from that, because his powers are pretty generic. And they never dive into the interesting stuff about his story in someone else's book. He just shows up and fights the villain with them, and so he just felt like token black man.
Yeah, I it's really, really funny. I talk about liking the Eternals primarily, I think, because it was different. It was a very different approach to world building, to superheroes, the whole 9 yards. I really liked it. Same reason I like Commandy, and I felt like Jack Kirby, for a little while at least, had a sort of a good turn on how to kind of change the game with his stories. That he was coming, his ideas, his concepts of superheroes. He was doing a really good job of just changing things up a little bit. He had a lot of misses too. He missed.
70s Captain America, for example, is a thing that exists.
He swung for the fence and didn't even hit the base, right? He had a lot of misses. But the Eternals is, to me, one of those stories that was very different from everything else that was out there at the time. Right? It was one of the reasons why I liked Alpha Flight. Right.
And that stuff can definitely work. That's one of the reasons I like Luke Cage in his own book. I didn't care for him when he'd turn up in Under People because he's just a big, strong guy.
Yeah.
But then in his own book...
There's a lot more nuance to him, first of all.
There's a lot more nuance. There's a lot of comedy that they leaned into the inherent ridiculousness of superheroes with stuff like him punching the rear rotor on a helicopter when the villain was trying to escape in it. And he's like, I'm indestructible, and he just sticks his fucking hand in the rotor.
Yeah.
And it's hilarious. And then they also did a story where he went to Latveria because Dr. Doom had stiffed him for $100 and he wanted his money, so he stole a ship from the Fantastic Four and went to Latveria to beat up Dr. Doom and get his money.
Okay, I do like that. But I noticed Ryan kind of totally missed a comment I just made. He was so oohing and ahhing over the fact that I liked the Eternals, which was a Marvel title. I also liked Alpha Flight.
Yes,
which is
Alpha Flight
another
is
Marvel
great.
title.
I didn't comment on that because we've already talked about that in a group chat mainly, but yeah, that's another
Dan's love
Marvel
of
title.
Eternals
Dan.
has come up before too, Ryan.
It has. Like, you guys tease me mercilessly about Ragman, but I loved that comic so much, right? And I was heartbroken when it didn't really take off.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I mostly make fun of Ragman because of his commercial success or lack thereof.
Yeah.
Ragman's actually good.
I make fun of Ragman because Dan likes it.
Yeah, same here. And it's not a successful comic because, if Dan liking Batman, well, that's not really easy to make fun of because
I'm Batman.
There's not a lot of
there's not a lot of
ammo I can pull to say that you're wrong to like Batman.
Yeah, there's not a lot of sour fruit in that tree.
Nah. So it's kind of hard to make fun of other than just going into the tropes. Like if we, if we went on, we're doing DC. Batman wouldn't be my Spider-Man because I also like Batman.
Okay, fair enough.
But Superman would totally be my Spider-Man.
Yeah, and
I would be shitting so hard on Superman.
And I would have no ability to defend him. Is part of the problem.
Yeah. And that's the same thing with your crapping on Spider-Man. Like, I love it, but the thing is, the stuff you say about Spider-Man is either so outrageous I can't argue with it, or it's just not wrong because, yes, Spider-Man is
a whiny little bitch.
He's extremely mopey
and unpleasant to be around. I can see why he has no friends. I mean, he's just so unpleasant.
He's also a nerd in the 60s.
That's Ditko's writing. No one Ditko writes is pleasant.
No, okay, and that's entirely fair.
Once Romita takes him over, he becomes instantly
more of the Spider-Man
much more likable. And same thing with a lot of his supporting cast.
Yeah.
Like, even Flash becomes likable.
Yeah.
Right now, a lot of the stuff that's benefiting Spider-Man is just that there's more to it than anything else you're reading. Like, Spider-Man has a life outside of being a superhero and so.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of what's getting the high rankings. But once Romita takes over, I actually want to read about Peter's life. I'd be completely happy to read an issue of Spider-Man where he never put on the suit.
Can I make a point here? Because DC did kind of go in directions like that, like the series Gotham and stuff like that, where they focus on a lot of the secondary characters. And it had some good moments. It had some really bad moments.
Yeah, I mean, any of those things. It's the strength of the person writing it.
Yeah, which is absolutely valid. That's entirely fair. But, I feel like when you boil it down to its component parts, like the big heroes like Spider-Man and Superman and Batman and Captain America, Bruce Wayne is very nuanced simply because he's been around for so long. They've had the time to put all this stuff in there. The Superman, they just didn't have to put it in there because he's fucking Superman, right?
And that's why I don't like Superman.
Peter Parker is
very one note.
Yeah, Peter Parker's still just a whiny little bitch. Still, 50, 60, 70 years later, he's still a whiny little bitch.
No, they've done a lot of stuff with Spider-Man.
I have no friends. I'm gonna go eat some worms. Yeah,
They've done a lot of stuff with Spider-Man, like, going forward. I didn't like a lot of their advancement they made with him. It's not so public on the podcast, but I moderately despise Dan Slott's run on Amazing Spider-Man.
turning Aunt May into a sex kitten wasn't probably the best idea either.
Meow.
Come on. Right, you know?
Ew.
No, but seriously, Aunt May was one of the characters I actually liked from the story.
Wow, because Aunt May is probably the worst character in the comics.
Oh, probably, but I got a kick out of her. Right?
Yeah, because she's constantly, like, terrified. She's either dying or she's terrified that Peter's going to, like, have a heart attack if he walks outside and the sun hits him directly.
Well, she's not wrong.
Tasty fucker.
Yeah. A little dork. Anyway.
Yeah, we should probably end our tangent now because it's just making this podcast episode longer.
It is.
We can do this on our own time.
I've been waiting for my time to jump in.
Yeah, we gave him a segue and then we stole it away from him.
Yeah, I was plugging the MCU episode coming, and then we just went off
On a
off
tangent.
the
It's my
rails.
fault. I'm sorry.
It's all right. That's what happens. It was fun conversation. But anyways, tune in later this month, sometime over the next few weeks, probably we will get that MCU episode out to you guys. Come back next week for what should be a very up and down episode in terms of quality. And the
episode will be universally good,
but the
it's
stories
just
inside.
The stories we're talking about will be
The
shitty
story is
sometimes.
up and down. I'm not trying to bury the podcast. That was bad word.
That's all right. I'll just bury you for it.
Yeah, thanks. That's fine. I'd rather be buried than the podcast. We have, so if you're watching this on YouTube, please leave a like, subscribe, comment, even share if you'd like to. We are also available on Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, and Spotify. If you're on Spotify, give a click on the poll that asks which one of these stories was your favorite that we talked about this week. And we will see you all in the next episode. And peace out.
Have a good one.
Bye-bye.